Hello everyone, batching today's second video. We're going to have a look at the weather for the next week, 10 days, for today's second video, which takes us just into the start of March. I think it goes around the 2nd or 3rd of March at day 10. So I'm going to get off that video very shortly, just to say that the first video release date was weekend forecast. We've got the CFS versus Beijing Climate Centre 6 o'clock coming up this evening. I'm going to try and slot Snow Watch in for you as well tonight. So it's a very, very busy day at Gasworth. Hope you're enjoying all of the content that we are getting done for you today. Going to begin this one by having a look at what's happening with the flood warnings. So things have got a lot better in terms of the flood warnings. We now have no severe flood warnings. So yesterday, when we did yesterday's video, we had 6. Now we're down to 0 severe flood warnings, which is a danger to life. So all of those severe flood warnings have been downgraded. We have 74 flood warnings. That's where flooding is expected. Immediate action is required. All of these just here. And we have 147 flood alerts, which is flooding is possible. Be prepared. And in the last 24 hours, we have 54 flood warnings no longer in force. Have been removed from the flood warnings page, those 54. So things are getting better. Things are improving, finally, after all of the mayhem over the past few days. How long these improvements go on for, though, remains to be seen, because we are in for more heavy rain in the coming days. And not only heavy rain, there will be snow getting involved as well in the northern half of the country. Weekend forecast covers this in detail. Of course, I'm going to try and do snow, as I say, for you tonight. So things are getting better. Things are improving with the flooding, but it's still quite a serious situation, and there is quite a lot more rain to come, which we will talk about in this video as well, of course. But for now, things are improving finally with those rivers. Right, moving on to the central England temperature. So the CET is currently standing at 6.5. Which is an anomaly of nearly 3 degrees above average. That's provisional to yesterday, the 21st of February. So this has turned out to be another very mild month, exceptionally mild February. Last February was exceptionally mild as well. In fact, at this point last year, we was on the cusp of record-breaking temperatures. We pushed the temperature up to around 21 degrees, I think, in North Wales, around the 25th of February last year, 70 Fahrenheit. We won't be doing that this year. If anything, the temperature is going to be going up and down this year. It will be very mild at times in the south, but in the north, it's actually going to be quite cold for these last days of February. I'm not expecting a great deal more deviation from the CET. It may tick down a little bit in the final days of the month. There's usually a downwards correction as well. So, excuse me, I anticipate we'll come out somewhere around 6.0 to 6.5. Exactly where we land within that remains to be seen. It could be something like 6.2, 6.3. But I think we'll be in that half a degree range from 6.0 to 6.5. I wouldn't see it getting any milder than 6.5, although it may tick up actually to 6.6 once it updates tomorrow for today. It's going to be, because it's very mild today. But I think overall, around 6.5 is where it will hover. But then if we get a couple of degrees shaved off, and we may lose a couple of tenths of a degree shaved off, I should say, as we usually do at the end of the month. And then we may tick it down by 0.1 or 0.2 of a degree with the cooler weather that's coming up, the cold weather that's coming up in the next few days. And I think somewhere around 6.0, 6.5 is where we'll finish up. But exactly where that is remains to be seen. It follows on from January, which came out at 6.4. That was exceptionally mild. So we'll have a pair of exceptionally mild months for January and for February. It's turned into a very mild, exceptionally mild winter, although it won't be a record break. It's not going to beat the mildest winter on record, which was set a very, very long time ago, back in 1868, 1869. These are the 500 millibar high anomaly flow charts for the next week to 10 days for Penn State University. We've got the ECMWF on the top, and the GFS, which we'll have a look in a moment, is on the bottom. So 500 millibars is an area in the absolute high pressure and low pressure being moved around by the jet stream running above. Rare stuff that's high pressure blue to low pressure. And this just tells us, it gets us into the start of March, it gets us to day 10, which is into the opening days of March. It tells us that the weather is staying unsettled, at least into the beginning of March. Look at this, we've got a deep trough of below average heights that have been through most of this winter, sitting over and to the west of the country. There is a difference compared to most of this winter, though. And that difference is that the jet stream is digging southwards. We're pulling the heights out of Spain and allowing this trough to dig south towards Spain and the Bay of Biscay, and with it, the jet stream going southwards as well. Notice how the heights are pulling out into the middle of the Atlantic. As that happens, as the jet stream moves southwards and we dig the trough southwards as well, we start to allow colder air to come out of the northern latitudes into that trough of low pressure. So it's still an unsettled scenario, very unsettled scenario, with plenty of precipitation around. The difference is that colder air is getting caught up into the mix. Now, there's no northern blocking here, you'll notice. So we've still got lots of low pressure around Greenland, lots of low pressure within the northern latitudes. So there's no blocking to force very cold air out of the pole. Nevertheless, with the jet stream moving southwards, we're sort of developing colder conditions into this trough. We're allowing colder conditions to seep into the trough, and we'll have a mix of air masses. So at times there will be mild air masses associated with that trough coming in from the southwest. At times there will be colder air masses coming in with that trough from sort of Greenland and from the Arctic. And particularly for northern parts of the country, this could turn out to be quite a wintry sort of week to 10 days coming up, with a fair amount of snow actually across Scotland. And I wouldn't rule out the chance, especially getting to March, you wouldn't rule out the chance of a little bit of snow coming even further southwards at times, but it will depend on the exact track of areas of low pressure, how they engage with that colder air. But GFS is very similar, although it's not pulling the heights out of Spain quite as much. So again, we've got the below average heights, a big trough centred over to the west of the country. There's also a trough on the eastern side of America, bringing cold air to them. Been a very mild winter in the east of the states, of course. Jet stream, again, is digging southward. So both the ECM and the GFS in the 7 to 10 day time frame are placing us on the cold side of the jet. The only difference really is that the heights are sort of still trying to reach towards Spain, although they are shifting southwards, but they're not completely pulling out of Spain like the ECM shows. So it's harder to get the cold air down into the country with those troughs of low pressure if the heights don't pull out of Spain. So it'll keep everything further north, if you see what I mean. The jet stream is a bit further north, though we are on the cold side, the jet stream just there. But the jet stream is a bit further north, the low pressure is a bit further north, the high pressure around Spain, that's a bit further north. So it's all a bit further north, and that means that it's harder to get the cold air down into those troughs of low pressure. Nevertheless, that's a very unsettled scenario. So the main takeaway is that even into the start of March, it's staying unsettled. We've talked about this in the videos a lot lately. Even into the start of March, it stays very unsettled. There'll be further bouts of rain. Can't rule out the chance of flooding with that, unfortunately. And the other side of that is that there is wintry potential, particularly for the north. But if the jet stream digs south, far enough south with those low pressures, that wintry potential could come southwards at times as well. Not sustained very cold weather, because again, there's no northern blocking. It's all blue through the northern latitudes. Let's change the colour. It's all blue over the North Pole and over the Arctic and down to Greenland and down to Iceland. There's no northern blocking, so we won't lock in to a severely cold spell of weather, not like March 2013, where we really did lock into northern blocking and it consistently stayed with us for weeks on end. It was very cold and snowy through March 2013, even into April 2013. We won't lock into that because there's no northern blocking to sort of lock us in. So we'll be looking at cold interludes, maybe snow, maybe marginal snow events. Very tricky for forecasters to ascertain where that rain-snow divide is going to be. And a lot to keep us on our toes in the next week to 10 days and probably beyond. These are the GFS upper air temperature and precipitation ensembles the next couple of weeks for Buxton. Today, looking at Buxton, the red line is 30-year upper air temperature average for Buxton. And up and down initially, so still zonal, warmer and cooler sectors alternating. It's very mild today, and we're going to keep these up and down temperatures going into the next few days. Into next week, though, the temperature does slide. We get a cold snap coming along through the middle part of next week, Tuesday, Wednesday, quite cold. Then low pressure comes back in off the Atlantic on Thursday. Lifts the upper air temperatures up, but the track of that is interesting. Could be a little bit of snow potential for Thursday. Otherwise, rain, sleet, snow, it could all be happening at the end of the week. And then into the first week of March, this period just here, very close to average. There's a lot of up and down going on, but overall probably a bit on the colder than average side, if anything. The main issue, again, is precipitation. Lots of rainfall spikes coming up. Bear in mind, this is for the North Midlands. It's sort of Derbyshire, that sort of area. So it's high up, it's elevated. It will be prone to heavy precipitation, but nevertheless, it's indicative of what we've got to come, which is plenty more precipitation, mainly rain down in the south, often snow in the north, but however it falls, there will be a risk of more severe flooding with this. There is going to be an ongoing risk of flooding through the rest of February and into March. As I said at the start of the video, although things are improving at the moment with the flooding, looking at that ensemble, you certainly wouldn't rule out the chance of more places being flooded, unfortunately. Temperature anomalies from the 22nd of February to the 1st of March. Colder than average for the northern half of the country. Scotland, Northern Ireland, just down to northern England, coming out cold and average, as is Norway. Southern parts of England still a little bit mild average, still hang on those mild average temperatures by their fingertips down in the south. We might see these trend cold average for the whole country when we look at them tomorrow or on Monday. We'll have to see about that. Precipitation anomalies from the 22nd of February to 1st of March, still above average. Could be another wetter than average week, as I was just saying. Yes, the deluge goes on, I'm afraid. Right, so that's how the GFS is looking for Tuesday. This is all covered by weekend forecast, of course. So on Tuesday, we're into a cold, showery, northwesterly wind. That carries on into Wednesday. Later Wednesday, we build up a ridge, the showers die out, but it's only ahead of this next area of low pressure just here. The track of that is interesting. If the track of this low pressure is light through here, then there'll be a big warm sector associated with it, mainly rain. If that low was to track in that sort of direction, then you would limit the warm sector, and some of the precipitation on the northern side of the low anyway could be of snow. The critical factor for these tracts of low pressure is a ridge around Spain. So if that ridge gets away from Spain and Portugal, the jet stream will come southwards, and it'll take the low pressures southwards with it. That allows more of the country to go into the cold air from the north. But as it is, the GFS wants to keep that ridge, well, it is a weakened ridge, it wants to keep the ridge going around Spain, and it's proving quite difficult to move the jet stream far enough south to bring snow into southern parts of the country anyway. No problem for Scotland though, because you're on the northern side of these areas of low pressure. So for Scotland, I don't think there's going to be any problem in getting snow with a lot of these low pressures in the coming days. Now, by the time we get through to Friday, we're all back into kind of a milder west-southwesterly, but next weekend starts to get quite interesting as low pressure sinks away to the east of the country. We start to turn the wind into the north. Notice now that high pressure around Spain is pulling back towards the Azores. That's allowing the isobars to dig down into Spain. And the black line is the jet stream, of course. That's digging southwards towards the Bay of Biscay as well. Everything's further south, and that allows the cold air to start pushing down from the north as well. So next weekend turns cold, and this is Sunday the 1st of March. Probably start March on quite a coldish note. And that's the 2nd of March. Low pressure then is starting to come back in from off the Atlantic. So it stays unsettled. It's just getting colder. Got a variety of unsettled. We'd have to watch out what's happening with back to low, risk of rain or snow. With that, we get through to day 10. We're trying to lift the jet stream back northwards again to day 10. But I think all in all, by day 10, which is the 3rd of March, we are looking quite a lot colder again. Got another little area of low pressure just here on the 3rd of March, out to our west. That takes a bit of a southerly track as we go through to Wednesday the 4th of March. That's sort of a channel low. So that could bring quite a bit of England and Wales into the risk, anyway, of snow. Obviously, it would depend on the exact soundings at the time in terms of the dew points, upper air temperatures, thicknesses, all of that sort of thing. Wet bulb temperatures, they're all very important as to whether you get rain or snow. And it's over sort of 10 days away. So, till much closer to the time frame, we wouldn't know what the precipitation with that low would be. But it's a kind of thing that might produce some snow, especially to places like Wales and Midlands, those sort of areas. Then going to that colder northwesterly again by Thursday the 5th of March, and we finish up looking like that. So by the very end of this GFS run, which is to Monday the 9th, just into the second week of March, by the very end, it looks like we're trying to build up some higher pressure. We're trying to get a ridge going out to the west of us, and we're also trying to build up some higher pressure to our east. Notice high pressure is strengthening a lot over Western Russia. That's the Siberian high. We've seen absolutely nothing of that at all winter. I've not had a snip of it, but we get into the beginning of March, and it looks like that Siberian high is trying to start to push out of Russia, and it's trying anyway to get some sort of a ridge over towards Scandinavia. You notice there's a bit of a ridge just there. So that is trying to get us increasingly blocked, actually, by the time we get through to the very end of this GFS run. Nothing particularly cold at that point. Winds are actually coming up from the south, but we'd have to watch out for what's going on with that Siberian high, obviously. The GEM looks like that, so windy and showery on Tuesday, and we go through to Wednesday, still looking quite cold, then low pressure coming in off the Atlantic through Thursday. That's bringing a risk of rain and or snow. Detail to be determined much closer to the time frame. Next weekend is unsettled and starts to go colder as heights begin to rise out to our northwest, start to pull down some colder air from the north, but still quite unsettled even up to day 10 with low pressure still coming in off the Atlantic. The jet streams digging southwards as well. This is all looking very different to what we had previous winter. Jet stream finally starting to move southwards. It's finally starting to bring some precipitation down into Spain, where it has been a very, very dry winter. And this having to go at building a Scandinavian high just there at day 10. Whether that will go into a cold easterly, it's too early to say. More runs needed. ECM looks like that, so again we're into a cold and showery northwesterly on Tuesday. That continues into Wednesday. Then low pressures heads in from off the Atlantic on Thursday. That's off the east coast of Scotland by the time we get through to Friday. That brings the risk of rain and or snow some parts of the country through Thursday. Into Friday, more low pressure pushing up from the southwest. That's primarily bringing rain, and then next weekend we start to shift these low pressures and the jet stream southwards. We saw it on the Penn State University 500 millibar height anomaly charts. Jet streams coming south, starting to move down towards the Bay of Biscay and to Spain. Low pressure out to our west, and we're starting to envelop cold air into that area of low pressure. We get to day 10, which is Tuesday the 3rd of March, low pressure shifting southwards, and it looks like we're having a go at building up some high pressure to the north of Scotland. That's quite a weak ridge. We would have to wait and see whether that's strengthened any further, but up to day 10, it still looks quite unsettled, and it does look rather colder as well. This is a precipitation type forecast based on that ECM run from Tameteo.com. Lots of winter showers in the northwest of the country today, and then we go through to tonight, bring another batch of wet weather across the country. Heavy rain tonight, particularly through Wales and Midlands, Northern England, just where we don't want it, another bout of really wet weather. It will zip through quite quickly though, so by the time we get through to tomorrow afternoon, we're back into much drier weather again. Then we've got problems as we go through Sunday night, as we bring a major area of low pressure in from off the Atlantic. That's running into cold air, and it looks like it could produce some very significant snow for Northern Ireland, for Scotland, and possibly for parts of Northern England too. I'm going to try and slot in Snow Watch tonight to look at this in more detail, but you can see the potential. I mean, the ECM does overplay snow quite a bit, so it probably won't be quite like this is showing. But there are several models that are indicating a bit of a snow event for the northern half of the country Sunday night into Monday, and I think it is enough to justify doing a snow watch. So if I can slot it in, expect to see snow watch sometime around 8 o'clock this evening. Maybe quite late, but I will try and get snow watching this evening. It is for the north, it's not for the south, so much of England and Wales just has rain. And the other story with this low on Monday is very strong winds for the north. So we're talking about blizzards with this, particularly over high ground of Scotland, and gusts of wind could be going up to 80 miles an hour across western parts of Scotland. Sort of late Monday afternoon into Monday evening as that low pressure moves over towards the eastern side of Scotland. That's where we get the strongest push of winds around western and southwestern parts of Scotland. That nasty low, excuse me, gets out of the way as we go through into Tuesday. And then we're left with a simple sort of showery type scenario for Tuesday and Wednesday. Most of the showers piling into the north and west. We may push a few of them over to the east. Couple of cold days coming up on Tuesday and Wednesday. Then low pressure back in for Thursday. That's moving in from off the Atlantic. Now, the ECM does actually produce some snow for England and Wales on Thursday. Other models are not showing that, and as I say, the ECM does overplay snow potential a little bit. So it may be more rain, sleet with this as opposed to snow. But again, it's one to watch. Thursday is definitely one to watch. More snow getting up to Scotland as well on Thursday. Into the end of next week, Friday, more rain into the south. That's primarily rain. Any winteriness with that is over high ground, really. Into next weekend, though, we start to see cold air back southwards again. We do see the chance of rain, sleet, or snow across parts of the country. There's some snow there through Wales, southwest England, South Midlands, for example, on the 2nd of March. You notice how things are just getting more and more wintry as we're going along with this into like the beginning of March. So we've got to keep a close eye on how this is all playing out. These options are on the table within the ECM ensembles today for day 10 from the Icelandic Met Office. It gets us to the 3rd of March. All roads leading to unsettled conditions, really. 20 members of the ECM ensembles with low pressure over the top of the country at day 10 and allowing some cold air to come into that trough of low pressure too. 13 has the low pressure over slightly to the west. That's very unsettled, but could be a little bit milder. 11 with low pressure sort of to the northwest and west, again very unsettled, but could be a bit milder. And then 7 with a trough of low pressure through the country, really, and probably pulling in some colder air from the north. They're varying slightly on the exact positions of the low pressures, but all roads leading to very unsettled conditions even into the beginning of March. In 2 weeks' time, easy options that we've got, it gets us to the 8th of March, so just ending the first week of March, have 17 members of the ECM ensembles with low pressure over and to the south. That will be unsettled and probably quite cold. Could be bringing in a wind from like a northeasterly direction with that. Hints of a bit of high pressure up towards Iceland, which is something we haven't had very often over the past few months. 16 with a mid-Atlantic ridge and a trough of low pressure to our east. That's trying to settle things down. Would be quite cold with that option. Winds coming in from sort of a northerly type point. 10 actually has us under a Scandinavian high. These 10 just here have high pressure over Scandinavia. Whether that would be connected to the Siberian high, I don't know. But those 10 do have us under a Scandinavian high and will be pulling in easterly winds. The problem with that, of course, easterlies can be very cold in March. But the problem probably for this year is that the continent has been so extraordinarily mild that even if a wind does get into the east, would there be any particularly cold air to tap into? I reckon at least initially, if you want cold weather, you'd be better off with a northerly, really, than an easterly, at least until the continent has had a chance to get colder. And then 8 has us still very unsettled. These 8 just here have us very unsettled, but bringing in a milder west-southwesterly. Maybe we're seeing hints of going towards higher pressure, though, as we get towards the end of the first week of March. And where that high pressure sits will be critical as to whether it will be turning colder with that ridge of high pressure or whether it will be spring-like and very pleasant. And, of course, we would start to dry out if high pressure begins to get involved in the weather pattern. Finally, this how the CFSB2 is looking for the next 4 weeks. It's a 500 millibar heights broken down into week periods. The first week period takes us from the 22nd to 28th of February. The coming week is unsettled. Lots of low pressure out to the northwest, still bringing in the wind off the Atlantic. Although it's a bit colder with those low pressures, the air is coming out of Greenland. Still has lots of high pressure around Spain, though. So the CFS doesn't want to get rid of that ridge over Spain and pull it out into the Atlantic. It does do it, though, in the end. We go through to the 29th of February to the 6th of March. Still with low pressure coming in off the Atlantic, all of this green and blue up here. But notice the ridge is pulling away from Spain into the middle of the Atlantic. So that does allow the jet stream to dig southwards, and so consequently go onto the cold side of the jet stream with this trough of low pressure, keeping things unsettled. There's wintry potential involved with that, particularly for the north, but not exclusively so. All change again for week 3. It's the 7th to the 13th of March. The ridge builds back in from off the Atlantic. This time it's further northwards, though, with low pressure pushed back towards Iceland and Greenland. Jet stream goes northwards. That gets us to spring type weather there. Through the second week of March, we would go dry, yes, under the high pressure, but also mild with winds in from a west-southwesterly direction. And then week 4 is the 14th to the 20th of March, still with low pressure up towards Greenland and Iceland, jet stream pushed northwards and high pressure just increasingly taking over both to the south and also to the east. Would still be mild or very mild as the wind is wafting up from the southwest. And a couple of much drier and spring-like weeks there as we go through the 2nd and the 3rd week of March. Right, that's it for update number 2. All looking quite interesting. It's a very complicated pattern. Going to be staying unsettled at least into the opening days of March. There'll be further bouts of rain. Can't rule out the chance of flooding as well with that. The difference, as I've been explaining through the video, is that it looks like the heights will begin to pull out of Spain. We'll start to move the jet stream southwards, and so within those areas of low pressure, cold air and mild air will be engaging one another. That clash of air masses could produce heavy precipitation, so that's why there's still the ongoing concern about flooding. But not only rain, snow will start to get involved in this, particularly in the north, but maybe not exclusively so. And then possibly hints of high pressure as we go a little bit later into March, bringing us drier and spring-like weather. We shall see about that. All very interesting, and we'll be keeping you updated with this over the next few days. We'll be back probably around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, something like that, with the CFS versus Beijing Climate Centre 6 o'clock look again. And as I say, I'm going to try and squeeze in snow watch about that snow for the north Sunday night into Monday. I think there's enough there to justify doing a snow watch tonight, and you'll probably see about around 7, 8 o'clock, something like that. That's all for now, though, and thanks for watching.